So the first presentation will be of Krzysztof Bekieszczuk from the University of Wroclaw, who will speak about missionaries from the Mediterranean region and their contribution to the linguistic research on Indian languages.
Buongiorno, scusate per non avere questa presentazione in italiano, ma ci sono due ostacoli perché primo è che per me è molto difficile non pensare in latino. Allora posso cambiare le parole latine in italiano, ma non è molto facile con la sintassi. Ed altro è che abbiamo invitato i nostri studenti di filologia indiana, sì.
Se sbaglio mi corrigerete.
Sorry, but I will start in English. And like Dr. Torkus said, I'd like to present some interesting figures, I think. Some missionaries from the Mediterranean region. Who were working in India, but how it all started? Usually when we are talking about comparative linguistics, about Indo-European linguistics, so the most famous figure is him, William Jones, colonial judge or judge in colonial administration of British India, and usually most of the textbooks about general linguistics or historical linguistics they claim that he's the founder of comparative linguistics, that he was the first one to observe the similarities between Sanskrit and Latin, especially Greek, and European languages in general. So, of course, it's not true. So, people for 200 years before him, I would say maybe many people were writing about the same, that they were claiming the same, but somehow he became popular. This discovery was ascribed to him. So I would like to talk about the origins, about the actual origins, and present especially what those scholars, those usually Jesuit scholars from Mediterranean, taught about the same subject here. And I will be talking about two French Jesuits and one not Jesuit, one monk from Croatia. Yeah. So that's our Mediterranean. But I was thinking that I'd like to give you a little more general idea. So that's why I'd like to present the also Jesuit, and most probably he was the first one. So also Englishman, but English Jesuit. Interesting case, because he in year 1583 wrote a letter to his brother, Richard, where he says, lingue am regionum sunt per multe, pronunciationem abent non invenustam, et compositionem latine recequesine. It's pretty easy, I hope, to understand that the composition of Sanskrit language in this case is similar to the Latin and Greek. We are in the 16th century, 1583. Of course, he is English. He is Englishman, not the main topic of my presentation today. And before we will go directly to those French and Croatian months, I'd like to in this conference I'd like to talk about one more person. Of course, he doesn't look like a Jesuit. Filippo Sassetti. So he was a merchant, merchant from noble family from Florence. I think it is worth mentioning, even though he wasn't missionary. And let's tell himself. So Sassetti, in one of his letters, we don't have exact date. It was written in late 1580s. I think everything can read this. Sono scritte le loro scienze tutte in una lingua che dimandano sanscrita, che vuol dire bene articolata, della quale non si ha memoria quando fosse parlata, con avere, come io dico, memorie antichissime. Imparandola, come noi la greca e la latina, di molto maggior tempo, sicché in 6 anni o 7, se non fanno padroni. E ha la lingua di oggi molte cose comuni con quella, nella quale sono molti dei nostri nomi, particolarmente dei numeri, il 6, 7, 8, 9, Dio, serpe e altri assai. De loro dottori scrisse Plinio, facendone menzione come di filosofi. That's interesting because we have even more here. We are, like I told, we are still in the 16th century, and he gives specific examples here. So, say in Sanskrit, shat, sete, Sanskrit satta, otto, Sanskrit ashta, nove, Sanskrit nava, later Dio, Sanskrit deva, serpe, in Sanskrit sarpa. It was more than 200 years before William Jones, and he already knew that, and he wasn't even exactly a scholar. He was, of course, well educated, but he was simply a merchant from Florence. That's the person I also wanted to present. The next one, he is a missionary, Jean-François Font, French Jesuit. Unfortunately, I cannot show you any image, any picture of him because I wasn't able to find any. Instead, I just put the example of a book, or rather journal, in which he was publishing his observations from India. It was quite popular series in 18th century in France. So yeah, maybe it's better if I won't try to pronounce this right now. But Jean-François Pont, he was working in French colonies in India because those people mentioned before they were present in Portuguese India, in Portuguese colonies in 16th century. So in following centuries, of course, other European powers like Netherlands, like England, but also France, wanted to have some colonies in India, and that was the field where Jean-François Pont was working. He spent most of his time in India, in southern India. So in the regions where people speak languages of Dravidian family, and he also made some observations about similarities between Sanskrit and between especially Latin and Greek. I think it's the easiest to observe, but like we saw, we can even use for comparison. We can even use Italian, like Sassetti did. Okay, another figure, another person here, Gaston Bourdieu, something like that. Sorry. Another French Jesuit and another important scholar who made contribution to comparative linguistics. So some of the modern scholars or 20th century scholars were proposed to call him the father of comparative linguistics because of importance of his works. Interesting thing is that some of those texts, which I'm talking about today, about the similarities between Indian and European languages, some of those texts were published. So, for example, Sassetti, he didn't publish this letter, but those Jesuits were writing those letters or those we could say articles, and they were published. And interesting thing is here also plagiarism, because some of those writings were copied by another scholars and published by their own names. Going forward. And the next one is Paulius Santo Bartolomeo, and he was Carmelite, or I think that's the name of his lady's order, and this scholar, he was coming from what is modern Croatia. But of course he was subject of the Habsburg Empire. This even says, Carmelita Discalcatus Austriacus. So not exactly from Austrian family. That's why I wanted to include him in this presentation. This is also a very talented scholar. Like many like many other missionaries, he studied both. He studied ancient language of India, which is Sanskrit. He also studied modern languages. And in his publications, you could say, he writes a lot about comparative linguistics. He writes a lot about similarities, and also directly about affinity of Sanskrit and Latin and Greek. So he represents here I would say late stage of those studies, because when we think about the first slide, in the late 18th century, also William Jones was living, yeah? And of course, after William Jones, this subject of studies became popular, and we had many others after him. Paulinus, he spent 15 years in India, and when he came back to Rome, he started to write textbooks, grammar books. Here started to write also to write also about affinity of Indian and European languages. And some of those works were published, some of his works were published before Jones, some of them after. In those late works, he also makes reference to Jones, but it is clear that Jones is not a source for him. He himself spent 15 years in India. He studied well Indian languages. So Jones, for him, is an example of a contemporary scholar who has some thoughts, some ideas, but definitely wouldn't be a source. Okay, so I think that could be for today. Sorry that I couldn't include more Italians into this presentation, but I hope you enjoyed. Okay, thank you.